It's been called the mother of all deals. India and the European Union have sealed their long-awaited free trade agreement, marking a major economic breakthrough. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi welcomed the finalization of the transformative deal.
भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच एक बहुत बड़ा एग्रीमेंट हुआ है। दुनिया में लोग इसकी चर्चा मदर ऑफ ऑल डील्स के रूप में कर रहे हैं। ये समझौता भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों और यूरोपीय देशों के करोड़ों लोगों के लिए बहुत बड़े अवसर लेकर आया है।
Well, the official declaration was made in a joint press briefing addressed by Prime Minister Modi, European Council President Antonio Costa, and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. I want to offer a special word of thanks to the people who worked so hard to make this day a reality. Starting with the European Union's Trade Commissioner Maroš Šefčovič and his counterpart, India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. You have done an outstanding work. This is historic, and it would not have been possible without you.
Well, the India-EU free trade agreement will see New Delhi sharply cutting tariffs on a wide range of European food products. Under the pact, tariffs on nearly 97% of EU goods exported to India will be removed or significantly reduced. Meanwhile, the EU will cut tariffs on over 99% of Indian goods exported over the next 7 years. Well, let's take a closer look at what is set to get cheaper for Indian consumers. Well, motor vehicles will see the largest tariff cuts, with duties slashed from 110% to just 10%, with a quota of 250,000 vehicles. Wine tariffs will drop to around 20%. Duties of around 50% on processed foods like pasta, bread, biscuits and chocolate will be fully eliminated. Tariffs of up to 45% on European fruit juices, olive oil, margarine and other vegetable oils will be removed. Nearly 90% of European optical, medical and surgical equipment will enter India duty-free. And tariffs of up to 44% on machinery and electrical equipment will be reduced to zero. The deal will also scrap tariffs of up to 22% on chemicals and 11% on pharmaceuticals. Tariffs on aircraft and spacecraft-related products will be reduced from 11% to zero. Well, earlier, the Indian Prime Minister held discussions with European Union leaders at Delhi's Hyderabad House at the 16th India-EU Summit. The deal has sparked a sharp reaction from the United States. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, a close aide to Donald Trump, said America had sacrificed more than Europe in efforts to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict. While India and the EU have finalized negotiations, officials say it will take effect next year, as the agreement must first be legally finalized and ratified by the European Parliament, a process that could take several months. The figures reveal that in 2024, bilateral trade between the EU and India already stood at $136 billion. Alongside the trade deal, India and the EU have signed an agreement to simplify travel and work opportunities for Indian students and professionals across Europe. But this week's breakthrough comes after nearly 2 decades of stalled negotiations that repeatedly collapsed over market access, labour standards, intellectual property rules and regulatory barriers. But the negotiations gained momentum over the past year amid global trade disruptions and rising protectionism. New Delhi and Brussels view the pact as a strategic move. They're hoping to strengthen long-term economic ties as supply chains shift and reliance on China is reassessed. India is pushing for greater market access in areas like textiles, garments, leather, gems and jewellery, engineering goods and processed foods. And for the EU, the deal provides stronger access to one of the world's fastest growing large economies, very much focused on goods, services and trade rules. So after years of deadlock, hesitation and missed deadlines, India and the European Union are finally crossing the finish line. In a world marked by tariffs, tensions and trade wars, this pact signals a strategic shift, one that could reshape global commerce for years to come. Well, for more on this, we have with us Hoseok Lee Makiyama, Director of the European Centre for International Political Economy, joining us live now from Brussels. Welcome to the programme. So, very much in a global sense, just how significant is this deal?
Well, it is a very important deal for European Union and India, and it's probably fair to say that it's the best deal available anywhere for each of them at the moment in a global climate that is not friendly to world trade, as you rightly pointed out, but also because there's no other better deal available for any other partner. We have to remember that both India and Europe are significant economies, and you need a large trading partner. Otherwise, he won't be having any impact on your GDP. So from that point of view, it is probably the best deal available.
You just touched on this briefly. It's taken nearly 2 decades to come to this agreement. To what extent do you think it became more urgent due to Donald Trump's repeated trade tariff threats?
Well, 2 decades can be actually a relatively short frame of time for both Europe and India, who are known to actually be very staunch and stubborn when it comes to this negotiation position, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But what Trump tariffs have basically done is that, first of all, we have seen India walking away from a deal with the United States. And in a world where the half of world growth is generated by United States and China, you have to look somewhere else. And the same goes for European Union as well. Although Europe did take a deal with the United States, we should remember that it didn't receive anything in return. It's a very one-sided deal that Europe and other countries have signed with the United States. And therefore, I think that what we are looking at now is basically both sides realizing that actually we should moderate our ambitions. We should take whatever deal that's available on the table. We should respect each other's sensitivities and basically wrap it up with a ribbon and take the deal that's currently presented, and which is, by today's standards, not a bad deal at all.
Let me ask you this as well. The deal regarding mobility of Indian students and professionals, that's a major win for India, isn't it?
It's always an important win for India. And I would dare to say, as a former negotiator on services, that there is not a single deal that involves India that doesn't incorporate it, because it's such an important offensive interest. It's not just about students, it's also about consultants, it's about engineers, and it's the entire service sector that depends on having access to your customers, being able to meet them. Now, the fact that the UK has actually left the EU has actually facilitated this quite a bit, because the remaining 27 EU member states are very, very keen to have Indian competences come and supply their services within the EU. And I do recall, in my own personal experience, very heated discussions about where these engineers should go, and where UK took a very reserved position. The other member states would basically say that, no, we want actually the Indian companies to come to us, not to the UK. So, yeah, that facilitated the deal as well.
Hoseok Lee Makiyama, thank you very much indeed. We appreciate your insights. Thank you for joining us. The world doesn't fit in boxes, so why should your news? From battlefields to negotiation tables, from internet outrage to real-world injustice. The conversations everyone is having and the ones they're avoiding. It's the same show, but this new year, Firstpost America gets a new look. I'm Kerry Johnston, and this is Firstpost America.